We'll start with Mr. Brock, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your attendance today. My focus will largely be with you, Mr. Moore, but I invite anyone else on the panel to weigh in if you feel you can contribute in some fashion to the response. I appreciate your opening statement, Mr. Moore. We've heard that from a number of officials at CBSA, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, but I'm not interested in lessons learned. I'm interested in how we got here and the issues that are really concerning to Canadians. There seems to be a culture of hiding information, threatening those that come forward, reprisals, and a general lack of accountability from senior leadership at CBSA. This committee has bona fide concerns that CBSA's top brass is covering up and deliberately trying to hide their actions while scapegoating others. There are now over 12 investigations taking place because of this debacle. My time is limited. I'm going to be asking for straightforward and honest responses, please. Mr. Moore, we've seen the Arrive scam briefing packages that went to Ms. O'Gorman. Your name is all over these documents, as is Min Doan and Kelly Belanger. This committee has been lied to by current and former senior CBSA leadership, particularly Mr. Doan, Ms. Belanger, and former President Mr. Osofsky. I expect you to tell us the truth today. Will you agree to that, sir?
Thank you for the question. I hope that everyone tells the truth and answers your questions to the best of their ability.
Thank you.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you. So the biggest question that we need to put a final point on without deliberating any further is who at CBSA was responsible for the decision to choose GC strategies, also known as Government of Canada strategies. We've had evidence from Cameron MacDonald on 2 occasions confirming that, Mr. Antonio Utano confirming that it was Min Doan. We also have what was really telling is a public document, an ATIP response from CBSA, which confirms in Annex A of the document that, and I'm going to read this out, who made the decision to contract GC? My office. This is in reference to Min Doan's office and Kelly Belanger's office. Same office. My office made the decision to pursue the contract with GC Strategies. The 2 proposals for the work were presented to the CIO and President, and the decision was made to proceed with GC Strategies as their proposal and approach aligned what the CBSA was looking for, particularly rapid staff augmentation. The Deloitte proposal was a managed service using their cloud instance. This would have involved additional risk and did not align with our decision to build cloud mob competencies with the agencies. Are you prepared right here and right now, sir, Mr. Moore, to confirm once and for all that it was Min Doan who ultimately made the decision to go with GC Strategies? Yes or no?
So I'd like to provide some additional clarification for the committee. So there were 2 decisions here. The first decision was how the ArriveCan app would be developed. That decision was a staff augmentation decision. The decision was to keep this in-house in order to develop the app and use staff augmentation to bring in the technical services required. The other option was the managed service approach, which is the Deloitte option. It was decided at that time by the executive committee that the managed services option would not be appropriate because it was unclear what the statement of work would be from the Public Health Agency of Canada.
Sir, this is all evidence we've already heard. I don't need you to waste valuable time that I have to repeat that. I'm sure you've been following the committee and you know what the evidence has already led. Will you confirm with me right now, at this point in time, that Min Doan was charged with the responsibility of choosing Government of Canada strategies?
So I can confirm once the staff augmentation model was agreed, The ISTB branch was responsible for putting in place the resources required, whether those be resources from...
And was that
in-house
Mindone,
or
sir?
staff
Yes or
members.
no? Was that
He was
Mindone?
the Vice President of the Information Science and Technology.
Was that Mindone, sir? Yes or
He was
no?
the Vice President, and it was a decision made by
And the Vice
branch.
President at that time was Mindone,
That is
correct?
correct.
Why did you have a difficult time saying that?
Because he is the Vice President. but
Right.
All
So,
the documentation
okay.
has been signed.
End of discussion. You've now confirmed, as many people have confirmed, that it was Mindone. Mindone repeatedly lied to this committee, saying he didn't personally make that decision, his team did. So I'm very glad for your honesty, and we can clarify that and move on.
But I think
Now,
it's
this was, sir, I asked the questions. This was such a political hot potato for the government that the Minister of Public Safety at the time, Marco Mendicino, had significant concerns with Government of Canada strategies, particularly with the millions of dollars received. And we now know that they receive upwards to $19 million for their involvement in this particular boondoggle. Now, we know that Mr. McDonald, Cameron McDonald, was threatened by Mindone on October 28, 2022. There was a phone call. He was told that the public safety minister at the time, Marco Mendicino, was unhappy with the ArriveCan media coverage and wanted someone's head on a platter. He was worried that either he or you, sir, Jonathan Moore, were going to get fired, so he was talking about someone's head on a platter. Is that my time?
That is your time, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Moore, perhaps you can get back to replying the next round.
5
Mr.
minutes.
Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair. Going back, Mr. Moore, to my last question before I ran out of time, the conversation between Mindone and Cameron McDonald in October of 2022, that Marco Mendicino was so unhappy with the media attention to ArriveCan that he wanted someone's head on a platter, and that either Mindone would be fired or you, sir, would be fired. He made specific reference to that. Then he turned and said that, you know, Cam, if I have to, I'm going to tell the committee that it was you. So he threatened Cam McDonald. That threat was then relayed up the chain of command. Ultimately, it was communicated to Aaron O'Gorman. And to your knowledge, sir, do you know if anyone, particularly Mindone, was suspended or reprimanded for that threat? Yes or no?
So I think I could start with the comment made by the minister. I'm not aware of that comment. I've never come across it. In fact, I've never briefed the minister at that time, and I was not informed.
Mindone confirmed the conversation took place. All right, so we can move on from that. Do you know if Mindone was reprimanded for his threat to Cameron McDonald? Yes or no?
No, I do not, but I understand that this investigation is ongoing.
Have you had any discussions with any of your ministers responsible for the portfolio during the ArriveCan rollout? That would include Mendicino, that would include Blair, and that would include LeBlanc. Have you had any personal discussions with any of your ministers?
So personally, I have briefed the ministers in terms of the SUPS-B and SUPS-C package in 2022, and also in terms of the announcement in the budget 2022 of the 25 million.
Did you update any of the ministers with respect to the overruns with the ArriveCan app?
No, because of those briefings, it was a briefing about the supplementary estimates to prepare them for committee.
Were you aware of any other senior executive who would have had those discussions? For instance, the president, the deputy minister, or Gorman and Osowski. Would they have had those discussions with those three ministers with respect to the cost overruns?
I'm not aware, but I can't comment on for my president.
Okay. You heard reference to the award that you received for the ArriveCan, which really begs the question, why was the award given in light of the Auditor General's report and the Procurement Ombudsman report? Can you actually provide us with documentation, sir, as to how the three individuals identified at CBSA received those awards? Were there nominations, things of that nature? Can you provide that to the committee within 3 weeks?
So again, I'm not aware of those awards, and so I'll have to come back to you on that.
Okay. We heard last week from PSPC that 3 additional companies that received taxpayer monies and should not have received those taxpayer monies are being now investigated by the RCMP. Those 3 companies were not identified by the PSPC because of privacy concerns. Are you familiar with those 3 companies in question, sir?
I am not familiar with those companies. However, I have been informed by PSPC that the CBSA is involved in this, and our involvement is limited to $15,000.
The CBSA is involved in relation to the 3 companies?
So I'm informed that the individuals who have been identified as fraudulently making claims, some of those claims relate to us. I think there are 36 different departments affected.
Right.
CBSA is affected up to $15,000.
Okay. And that was in relation to their supposed work on the ArriveCAN app?
It's not necessarily in relation to the work on ArriveCAN app.
But it
be
could?
in relation to anything else.
But it could?
I'm not aware of the PSPC. I think you'd have to address that to
Okay.
PSPC.
To your knowledge, sir, are there any other companies that are operating under suspicious circumstances with their contracting at CBSA, either under the ArriveCAN app or other work done at the request of CBSA that are being considered for RCMP referrals?
So I'm not aware of any at the moment, but as I've said before, we are now looking through all of the interactions to see if there are any examples. So, for example, we have done a review of our contractors who are working and whether they are included in the GEDS system, and we have identified a few names there, but I'm pleased to say in all of those cases we have spoken to the other employer.
Thank you, sir. I have in my hand a multi-page letter addressed to Ariane Reza, the assistant, as she was then was, Assistant Deputy Minister for PSPC, in relation to the request for a national security exception in relation to one company. I'm looking at the 3rd page of this document towards the bottom end of it. And you've indicated we have identified a supplier that has already successfully implemented a modern tool for risk assessments on shipments coming into Canada. That he was once involved with Transport Canada that leveraged technology to build a modern cloud-first approach, low-touch process to replace a manual high-touch process. That company in question is GC Strategies, Government of Canada Strategies. Is that correct?
So I do not believe so, mainly because it refers to shipments. It does not refer to individuals, but perhaps I could ask Mr. Leahy to answer that.
I'm afraid that is our time. Perhaps